Hello and welcome to Number by Color. My name is Todd, and today we're doing something a little bit different. You know, game reviews take so long to do. I gotta play the game, I gotta write the script, I gotta record the video, I gotta edit it all together. Oh man, who has time for all that stuff? Well, I guess I do because that's what I've been doing on this channel primarily. Well, today we're doing something a little bit different. I'm doing a tier list. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is something that everybody has done, and this is like a trend that's over. Well, guess what? It's not over because I'm doing it. I wanted to talk a little bit more about my personal tastes and interest in games on this channel because for the most part, I have just done a couple quick recommendations. I have done some reviews, and then years and years ago I did let's play videos where I'm not even actually in the video. So I love Final Fantasy, and I want to take some time to go over my favorite games in the series, and really what I mean by that is rank the games in the series. This is only the mainline games. I wanted to keep it kind of focused on the numbered games. And there's one more caveat. I have not played the After Years, I think it's called, Final Fantasy XII Revenant Wings, and I have not played Final Fantasy XI. All the other ones I have either played a good enough amount to have a really good idea of how I feel about the game, or I've beaten them. Most of them I've beaten. The ones I haven't beaten are 2 and 3, I think. Those are like the only two. So with that being said, let's get into the ranking. These are just going to be my quick thoughts about how I feel about each of these, and I'm going to just put them in a tier and see what happens. So let's just begin. Final Fantasy 1. This game started it all. I played this on the Nintendo. I was pretty young when I played it. It was the early 90s. I don't think it was my first Final Fantasy, but it was one of the first. I have good feelings about this. I have good memories of this game. I played it again more recently within the last 10 years, and it holds up. I think that might be nostalgia talking, but I think it's pretty good. And for what it did in the series and what it did for the genre, I'm going to put it in the B. There are some technical limitations, I guess, that hindered its greatness, but for what it was able to do, for what it had to work with, I think it did a really good job. That being said, we're moving on to Final Fantasy II, and this game did not do a good job with what it had. I really liked what it tried to do with the way you level up and, get stronger, but it kind of flubbed the whole thing. Like, you had to use specific weapons to get more proficient with those weapons. You had to use magics to get more proficient with that, but you had to get attacked to get more defense and dexterity and that kind of stuff. That was a cool idea on paper. I don't think it really panned out that well. I'm going to put this in the D. We might make revisions later, but we're just going off the cuff here. Also, I don't know if you can know this, or notice this rather, but there might be some noise coming through. I hope it's not coming through, but if it is, thank you for watching and bearing with me. Okay, let's continue. Final Fantasy III. I gotta be honest, the only version of this I played was on the Nintendo DS. It was the remake, and the core mechanics of this game I really like. This is the first game in the series that introduced the job system, as far as in Final Fantasy I, you could pick a job, a class, but you couldn't change it throughout the course of the game. This is the first game in the series where you could change it, and that is something I really like about this series. When Final Fantasy games let you change your jobs, that is a big plus for me, and that means usually that I have a much easier time loving the game. I think for that, I'm going to put this in an A because of the job system, what it did. I think I might need to adjust this later on based on the games that are coming up, but for now, this is the ranking. Let's move on to Final Fantasy IV. I have really good memories with this game too. I remember playing this as Final Fantasy II on the Super Nintendo. It was just really good. Obviously, it's a huge improvement over Final Fantasy I, which makes sense because it's the fourth one in the series, even though it was advertised as 2. Just that alone, the improvements, the animations, the sprites, the music, everything just felt a lot better. There were a lot of good characters. They were fleshed out. Since there were so many characters, it kept feeling fresh. Everybody had their own individual classes, so we weren't changing classes anymore. We had our own set classes. People leveled up as they were intended, which is another thing that I really enjoy about the game. Anyway, this one definitely will go on A. Next up is Final Fantasy V. This is probably one of my favorite Final Fantasy games of the 8 and 16-bit era. This game, like Final Fantasy III, has a job system. The cool thing about this is that once you mastered a job, your base jobless class gained additional stat boosts. Once you would master something like the Berserker or White Mage, your freelancer job would get stronger. So this has like the added benefit of not only being able to change classes, which I love. Once you master every class, the freelancer class gets stronger as a result. And that is something I really loved about this game. I really love this game. I'm putting this in S. I don't care what you say. Next, we have Final Fantasy VI. I agree that this is one of the strongest in the series. It's not my personal favorite, but I really enjoy it. Everybody in this game does kind of have their own special skills, but you can teach everybody different magic. You can teach everybody the same magics depending on the Esper that you equipped on them. Because of that, it's a little bit less satisfying for me to grind, and there are so many characters. You don't need to get them all, even though you don't have to. You kind of want to, and then I don't know, there's just a lot to keep up with. Overall though, I really like the aesthetic. The graphics are obviously the best graphics you'll see on a Super Nintendo game other than maybe Chrono Trigger. Because of that, I'm gonna put this on S, and I guess I'll put this above 5, but they're like very neck and neck. I think actually I'm going to tier all of these down because I like some of these more than 6, and I need a tier to represent that. So 7, this is the one that's gonna be remade, or it is currently being remade. This game is just like a big part of my childhood, like many other people. It's not my first Final Fantasy game, but it was a very strong game. It was pretty much the reason why I bought a PlayStation, because it was one of the first games that I played on the PlayStation, and it's just awesome. The feelings that I had when I was playing it for the first time, I don't know, it just brings up a lot of memories. The materia system is not my favorite magic system because everybody is basically like a nothing kind of character, and then you can make them whatever you want them to be based on the materia that you equip on them and the summons and all that kind of stuff. That's not my favorite, but regardless of that, I still really like the battle system. I really like this game. The story is really good. The characters are really good. I'm going to put this in an A rank above 6. I think this game is better than 6. Now, I have not revisited most of these in a while. So anyway, let's move on to Final Fantasy VIII. This game is interesting. It's one of the ones that's very divisive. At first, the junction system seemed really weird to me because it's like, I didn't like the thought that magic was its own kind of item category where you just use items as magic. So that being a thing kind of turned me off a little bit. And then the fact that you had to junction it to your stats to increase them, that's fine with me. I like that idea. But the fact that you can use the magic also, that was weird because you junction it to increase your stats, but if you use too much of it, your stats lower again. And the enemies level up with you, so you don't always feel like there's a sense of getting much stronger. And probably the biggest complaint I have about the game is that you can max out at level 100, and enemies in the last palace use level 5 death, which is instant death for anybody whose level is a multiple of 5. So that's a really weird design choice because it's instant game over for any battle that has that. With all that out of the way, I still really like this game. It's really fun. The story is interesting. It's different than what we've seen before. I think this is good. It's not as strong for me. I will probably put this on a B. I gotta do that. Next up, Final Fantasy IX. I'll be straight with you. This is my favorite one. I'm not going to spend too much time because there's so much I could say about it, but I'm definitely putting this up in S. I will say though, the reason I like this is because it has so many of the things that I really love. When you equip weapons, they have different skills associated to them, but you cannot use those skills without that weapon equipped unless you master the skill, and the only way to do that is to fight battles and get skill points. I love that once you master the skill that's equipped to a weapon, you can use it without the weapon equipped. You can equip a new weapon or accessory, and there's more things to learn. And it's just like constant feeling of learning new stuff. And I love that. Everybody has their own class, so everybody feels like a fully realized character. Speaking of characters, these are really good characters. There's such like philosophical and ethical dilemmas in this game, and it's so good, man. I really love this game. It's one of my favorites. Thank you. Next up, Final Fantasy X. This game is really good too. I think I was a freshman in high school. This is also an interesting one because technically everybody is like a shell character as far as skills and abilities, but they all start at a different point on the sphere grid that you can kind of say that each person is a specific job. Anyway, this one was the first one on PS2. It did a lot of cool things. First one with voice acting. So that was like a different kind of feel. I think that changed the vibe, and there was no world map, so that was like another different change to the series that we hadn't seen before. All in all though, this is a really solid game. I have a lot of good memories with this game, playing it with friends. I think this will go on A. I will probably put this, just based on all the factors, I'll probably put it above 5 but below 6. Now I'm second guessing myself. I'm actually gonna move 5 here. Don't at me. Next up is 10-2. I think this game started the whole like, why did we need this kind of thing that we have been asking Square for pretty much all the time since they released this. I'm not that down on this game. This game is fun. This is another one where you kind of choose your classes. You had dress spheres, and each dress sphere had different abilities that you could master. It just makes me feel so good, and that's one of the reasons I love RPGs. But because of that, I really enjoyed this game. The story is a little bit weird, but the core gameplay is what really draws me back to this. For this, I think I'm going to put this as a solid B. It's definitely better than 3. I don't know if I would put this above 4. I think I wouldn't. Still a really good game though. By the way, most of these are all really good games regardless of the tier that they're going into. I think the only one really not worth playing is Final Fantasy II because it's just so different, and it's not like a satisfying RPG in my opinion. Anyway, let's move on. I have not played 11. Unfortunately, I'd never played this. I wanted to. I've heard it's really good. So let's move on to 12. This is another one of my favorite Final Fantasy games. I think I'm going to throw this up in S. I played this again recently with the Zodiac Age remaster, and it's just so good. It's fantastic. The story is really cool. The setting is different. They do a lot of cool things with this. I just really like this game though because the exploration feels a little bit like an MMO, but it's not really because there's still turn-based battles. Moving on, I have not played Revenant Wings. Final Fantasy 13 though, I was able to play, and unlike a lot of people when this game came out, I really liked this game. I liked the story. I thought it was interesting and suspenseful. It made me feel really good. I liked playing this. I thought it was cool. I wanted to see what happened with these characters. The Lassie Falsi thing was not confusing to me. I mean, it is a little bit until you get into it, but I think people really overblew the confusing nature of like Grand Pulse and Falsi and Lassie and all these things. It's really not that difficult to understand once you're getting into it. The characters are good. Some of them are, a little bit, I guess, tedious after a while, but I wouldn't say any of them are particularly bad. I like the characters in this. There's really not a character I don't like that I actively dislike. It was good. I liked it. That's all I need to say. I liked it. I'm going to put this up here because I probably like this more than 10. But having said that, I have not played this in a long time, so I don't know. 13-2 and Lightning Returns, these are two more games where it's like, why did we need this? I think these two are sort of Square's apology to us for Final Fantasy 13, but I didn't think we really needed them. Now, I enjoyed them. I liked what they added to the story and the series of Final Fantasy 13, but we did not need them. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on these two games, but I do want to talk about them still a little bit. 13-2, it's cool. There is a time travel aspect to it. It's a little bit like Chrono Trigger in that way. You can travel back and forth through time, and you can change things in the timelines and unlock new timelines, and that's a really cool aspect. I like that a lot. I liked Sarah and Noel. I think they're good characters. I like that it's just the two of them. I mean, it's pretty solid. We didn't need it, but it's pretty solid. I'm going to put it on a B. I'm going to put it above 10-2 because I feel like it's a stronger sequel than 10-2 was. Lightning Returns, I think I'm going to actually just put this below 13-2. Lightning Returns was cool. It also had a time mechanic in the sense that time was always counting down. I do not like that in games. I don't like to feel the pressure of having to make a decision and choosing what I need to do at any given time and weighing the pros and cons of how much time it might take. I really don't like that. But nonetheless, I did like this game. So that's going in the B tier below 13 too. Next up, we have 14. And actually, I don't know if this is unexpected, but this is going up in S because this game is awesome. I'm actually going to put this above 12. Even though I'm not actively subscribed to this game, I did play it for probably maybe 6 months or a year pretty heavily, and I very unexpectedly loved it. I'm not an MMO guy. I don't like to play multiplayer games. Fortunately, with this one, you can play by yourself, and they do a pretty good job of giving you enough time to play without having to subscribe that you can get a pretty good feel of what the game is and whether or not you're interested in subscribing or continuing to play. If you haven't played this, it's an MMO. Yes, there is a monthly subscription, but it's 100% worth it. I guarantee you will love it if you love Final Fantasy games. And there's like a ton of stuff to do. This game can entertain you forever, probably. And I really like it. I could say so much about this. I really love this game. It's really good. Play this game, please. Finally, we're at Final Fantasy 15. This is the most recent game to come out in the Final Fantasy series. This game turned out to be a pretty good game. It wasn't great, but it was pretty good. The story is good up until the end when it kind of just stops all of a sudden, which is weird because they did a really good job leading up to it, but they didn't do a good job landing it, which is unfortunate because I feel like it could have been a very strong ending. The ending is beautiful. It looks so nice. Obviously, visually, it looks really good. You can tell there's emotion. The music is swelling. Something is supposed to be feeling sad or good. I don't know. There's supposed to be emotions that I'm having, and I'm sort of feeling these emotions because of the music, but not because of what was happening on the screen, because it felt a little bit unearned. But that was just my opinion. I might have missed something. That being said, the gameplay is still pretty solid. I liked walking around with the other 3 guys. Their banter and their camaraderie was really nice. Just the general gameplay was pretty good. The skill tree was not my favorite. It didn't really feel like I was getting much out of it as I was leveling up. But overall, this is a pretty solid game, and I think it's a good entry for people who like more action-oriented RPGs. I don't like that it kind of set the series in a weird direction as far as we don't know what to expect in the future now. But I think in general, this is a pretty solid game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on. Now it's weird because 1 is on a C and 2 is on a D, but I don't think 1 is a C, but I don't think it's as strong as the other ones. I think I'm gonna put this above 4. Actually, I'm gonna put this above 4. I'm not gonna put it above 8. It's very, I would say it's very close to 8 though for me. Actually, I might play 15 again before 8. I don't know. Is that weird? Maybe it's weird. Anyway, this is my list. Sorry if this video kind of got a little bit long, but you know, I really like talking about games, and Final Fantasy is one of my favorite series. I could probably talk about each of these games for the length of this video itself. So thank you for watching. I have some other reviews. If you're interested in watching that, you can subscribe if you want. But for now, I'm gonna go. I'll see you later. Thanks for watching, and have a good night.